I'll call the meeting to order Monday, Monday, March 20th at 7 p.m. On your agenda, you'll see some consent agenda items, including minutes of the March 6th school board meeting, general fund vouchers and purchase card transactions, request approval of general fund vouchers number 17920 through number 17942, and numbers 292145 through number 292205, and purchasing card transactions dated 1/21/23 through 2/20/23. There are some professional staffing recommendations identified. There are co-curricular staffing recommendations identified. So there's a request on action of minutes, the general fund vouchers, professional staffing recommendations, co-curricular staffing recommendations. Is there a motion?
I'll make that, Tom.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thanks. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. All in favor of the motion, say yay.
Yay?
Yay.
All who oppose, say nay. Okay, it passes unanimously. Okay, there's some personnel items that require no action. Okay, public comment.
All right. We have not had anyone submit public comments prior to the meeting. Would you be comfortable with me asking members of the public who may wish to apply via Zoom?
Yes, please.
Register via Zoom? Okay, thank you. All right. If you'd like to make a public appearance by speaking to the board, please utilize the Q&A portion found at the bottom of your Zoom window. In the Q&A, we would ask that you type your name, address, subject of interest, and whether you have discussed this item prior to the meeting with a district administrator or president. However, after submitting the information, I would transfer you over to speak to the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Angie. In accordance with school board policy number 167.3, McFarland School Board welcomes public comments during regular meetings. The board will accept public comments via individuals who are physically present at the board meeting, who are participating in the board meeting virtually, or who have sent an email to the board president or superintendent. Please note the following. Participants are required to register their intention to participate in the noticed public comment portion of the meeting upon their arrival at the meeting, and shall begin their comments by stating their name, address, and group affiliation if and when appropriate. Topics: participants shall address only topics within the legitimate jurisdiction of the board. The board members will not directly respond to comments and may only take action on topics that are on the published agenda. Time: the participants are asked to limit their comments to 5 minutes in duration. Written comments will have a word limit of 250 words. The portion of the meeting for public comments is limited to 60 minutes, unless otherwise extended by vote by the board. And lastly, decorum: participants shall direct all comments to the board and observe reasonable decorum. Angie, do we have any comments yet? Any participants?
We have not had anyone register to speak to the board. Thank you.
Okay. Do I keep that open a little bit longer or
Sure.
close
if
it
you,
off?
We can close if someone registers in the next, minute or so. I can certainly
Okay.
let you know. We have not had anyone register.
Okay, let's close it off, and we'll continue. Next item on the agenda is McFarland High School student report with Joy Lewis. Good evening, Joey.
Good evening. I do have Valerie joining me tonight. Very exciting.
Hi, Valerie.
I'll pull up the presentation here.
Hi.
Welcome.
Sorry, I was studying for AP Chem, so I am in a Starbucks, and my headphones refuse to work, but it's okay. So do you want to go to the next slide for me? So just to start off, our forensics team has had an amazing season so far. They actually just had their district conference at La Follette, and all 6 students advanced to state in April, and that's a lovely picture we got from their advisor a few days ago.
Who is the advisor?
I think it's Miss Connor. I know there's a Miss Miller as well, as far as I
Okay.
know. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep. The next one, I can speak to this one really well. DECA had our state conference at the end of February, and we had 21 students participate in Lake Geneva. All students did amazing, and 14 of us are going to be advancing to internationals in Orlando this April. It was a huge weekend. Congrats to everyone. As well, this last weekend on Saturday, we hosted Superhero Training Camp and Big Little, and this was to raise money for our international conference. We raised over $3,000 for all our students participating. The next one, I'm sure most people are aware, our basketball teams had a big few weeks recently. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to our boys team for making it to the sectional final. I never finished typing, but they barely lost to Whitnall. It was a great game. The next one is that our multicultural club is hosting a lunch tomorrow, and a bunch of the different members are going to be bringing foods from different cultures. It's going to be really cool. It's exciting to see them to get together and really experience different cultures. And this is my last one. We just wanted to wish good luck to all our spring sports. I know soccer tryouts started today. Softball track started last week. They even had a meet at UW-Platteville. So good luck to all our spring sports.
Also very recently, our girls basketball was at state, a very, very, very close game. They played, they also secured a win as champions of the Rock Valley Conference. That was not this past weekend. I don't know why I said that. But congratulations to girls basketball for making it that far. That is super, super, super impressive. Our club specifically, this past month has actually been doing some work with the League of Women Voters to help register seniors at our school turning 18 before April 4th to register for the spring election. We've had over 20 students come up to the table that we had at lunches and like a drive after school one day, confirm that they are registered, and we even confirmed with staff that they are registered. So that was super, super awesome. As we know, March is Women's History Month. Our Girl Up Club this past month has been encouraging our MHS to celebrate Women's History Month. They're also currently holding a fundraiser selling t-shirts through the 608 Threads store so that they continue supplying MHS with menstrual products in the restrooms. And that's QR code in case you're interested in purchasing a shirt. Club murals. So this has been mentioned a few times. But our club murals that were project at the beginning of the year, just kind of designed to make the MHS hallways a little bit brighter. They have been hung up, and here are some pictures of them. They're currently in the hallway of the SLC, but they will be traveling to different places, I do believe. But fantastic job to all the clubs that participated and showcased their art skills. And then just this past week, or last week, the McFarland Black Student Union held a movie night at the MHS SLC watching the biographical film Just Mercy based on the book written by Brian Stevenson. You can see lots of members there. Just kind of a nice end to Black History Month. And that's it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Joey. Comments from board members?
That was one of my favorite parts of the board meeting.
So glad to hear it.
And you guys didn't even really mention that much about the fact that, if I'm correct, I think school is going to take a break. It's probably not on your mind.
Spring break? No, I have like 4 times.
That's a good reason for not mentioning it.
Well, thank you.
Joey, I would say this, it is phenomenal, the type of information that you and Valerie shared tonight in previous school board meetings. It's just mind-boggling to realize the type of activities and events, opportunities, and challenges that are provided to our students here at McFarland High School. I can't think of another high school our size that provides this type of opportunities, number of opportunities for our kids. So thank you for reporting out and providing the feedback to us. And congratulations to you and every club and sport that you just mentioned. We are very proud of you and all the kids that are involved here at the high school. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Joey. Thanks, Valerie.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Yep, bye now. Okay, next agenda item is informational item, career and technical education report with Penny Thompson.
I think Angie has a slideshow, so I am the Career and Technical Education Coordinator, and we know we have so many programs going on. When you hear the student report and following up from what Tom just said, it is amazing that a school our size is able to capture all of these things in as far as opportunities for students, and that's kind of what this is about. And so I listed there on the first slide that our four different programs really that fall underneath our career in tech ed: business and marketing, family consumer science, tech ed, and then youth apprenticeship, which is kind of a culmination of a lot of those different experiences. On the next slide, and again, I wanted to share all these wonderful things that get great support. That's okay. That's okay. For our kids in the classes and programs to have a full CTE experience, there's kind of 4 elements to that, and we're able to provide all 4 of those elements, which is wonderful. The first being obviously classes. We have amazing classes for the, again, the size of the school, as well as meeting industry demands, and also providing just a lot of career exploration for students, so that is really good. We offer 2 school-based enterprises, that being Spartan Headquarters and Spartan Manufacturing, and the idea of it being called a school-based enterprise is that the students are having the opportunity to run businesses, create products, understand the finance and the marketing that goes behind all of that. So it is absolutely amazing. The other element, which is again kind of a hand-in-hand, the CTSOs, and that's our career and technical student organizations, and they should be viewed as not an extracurricular, rather a co-curricular, because they relate directly to what our students are learning in the classrooms and then being able to demonstrate. So again, we have very strong DECA chapter, as Valerie just alluded to. We have a great Skills USA, and we had some budding experiences this year with FCCLA and ProStart, which are experiences we've offered in the past but kind of had lost some of that opportunity for kids, and it's back, and they did some amazing things. And then we have the work-based learning component, which is youth apprenticeship and the DPI skills. So the next slide, I don't know if anybody has glasses well enough to read all of these, but if nothing else, I took this just straight from our course book, but to show you the courses that our kids are able to take that are for kids who are planning to go on to college, planning to go into the workforce, planning to do a combo of all of those things. We just offer a great setting for them to try to figure out where their passions are. So that's that part of it, and our CTE teachers are phenomenal. On to the next slide, our CTSO, just kind of celebrating a couple of things. Valerie shared with you all the wonderful things that DECA is doing. We should have compared notes because I shared kind of some of the same things. But running the community events like those are entrepreneurial experiences our kids are getting an experience in. So they ran the Big Little Dance along with the superhero camp, and the kids running those events had to think about all of the operational things. They had to promote, they had to think on their feet the night of, all of those types of things, and very well attended and raised some money for them going on. And of course, going on is that 14 students to Orlando, Florida, later in April. Junior Achievement is actually a mentored program that we have for, they work directly with Brian Hellenbrand's classrooms. There's a mentor that goes in. They make different decisions in the classroom, all of them, and then there were like 10 of them that advanced onto a regional level to make financial decisions. Again, they have a mentor from the banking industry that worked with them. And okay, this picture, do you love it? The two boys there, that was them realizing they just jumped to first place. I love the look on their faces there, like they're excited. And so those first place boys will be heading on to Sheboygan for the next level. So Junior Achievement is a nationwide organization that brings learning into all grade levels, but this is a specific one for financial literacy and business challenge. Isn't that fun? So fun. On the next side, a couple of other fun pictures to see. Our Skills USA team competed and did very well at regionals. 4 students advancing on to the state competition. Kind of a bird's eye view in that picture, looking down at the kinds of experiences that they can compete in. And that's kind of that very visual in the construction area, but they have a zillion of other things that fall in it. And this was our Pro Start team. I know a couple of you were able to stop by when they were here. Unfortunately, I didn't connect fast enough with Arlene Welcher, but she took the team to the Fox Valley Technical College, and this was their dress rehearsal, but they did a great job working as a team at that other level. But again, all of these that I've kind of, shared, we have business mentors that work with these kids in all of these experiences. And again, I usually say to the kids, it's great to walk out of high school with a GPA and class experiences, but it's really great if you can tell a story as well. And that's what some of these experiences do. On the next page, another part of preparing our students for Infinity and beyond, right? We have industry-recognized certifications that our kids can earn when they're in these different classes, just a couple snapshots of them. The CNA, we work closely with Quality CNA and MATC in helping students earn those certifications. The others we are offering by partnering with some online platforms to be able to offer those things. The dual credit, all of us are very familiar with AP and advanced placement into college, but something that's kind of a well-known secret, or a kept secret rather, is the dual credit option. And in our classes, in Marketing 1, Marketing 2, Computer Apps, and Entrepreneurship, kids have the opportunity to earn credits that, yes, transfer to the technical college, but also because of the new accreditation that Madison College has had over the years, they can earn those credits at Madison College to go to a 4-year university. As I explain to kids, it's always advocating for yourself in that regard, because no one's going to want to say to you, do you want to take fewer classes under our tuition bill, right? So the same way that you would talk about your AP classes, go in and talk about those. Fortunately, because the teacher works to align the curriculum with Madison College and oftentimes provide the same testing experience and so forth, they don't have to take an AP test. So they can earn those credits by taking the course and meeting a satisfactory level of that. So I'm really excited that Brian Hellenbrand and Sarah Hart Olson are adding some things in there. That's the entrepreneurship one and the computer apps, because those are really great things. So hoping to continue to grow that, because that is awesome that they can earn those college credits. And I know for a fact, having students in the marketing one, there are UW systems that are taking that. Other fun things to kind of celebrate, our CTE programs leadership, Ginger just got elected, Ginger Verhulst, our marketing DECA advisor to the Wisconsin DECA Center Board, and Sarah Hart Olson is just finishing up her presidency with the Center Board, and she will be serving as the past president. Scholarships, Caden Bainan got a $500 Wisconsin DECA scholarship, and now he advances on to be to have the international scholarship too, so he automatically gets thrown into that pool. We had 2 students that we just recently selected for the Technical Excellence Scholarship, and that is a program where students that have been a part of some classes, they've been a part of CTSO or youth apprenticeship or other work-based learning, earning certifications, whatever, those are kind of the qualifications. They can earn up to $2,250 for 3 years at one of the technical colleges. So that really can set them off very well. So I'm not announcing them yet. I know them, but that's a secret till scholarship night. And another great thing, I am so lucky, or award opportunities, I should also mention that Caden Bainan is the running for the CTE Presidential Scholar. First time ever in my career we've had a student advance on, so super excited that he's there. And then Brian Hahn and Sarah Hart Olson in the running for the Cole Teacher Fellowship. And even though Angie Bazan isn't a CTE instructor, I thought I should recognize she also is in the running on that, and she's fabulous. The next slide there, I get to work very closely with Youth Apprenticeship. This is a couple of our kids that are out there this year doing really neat and different things. We have 2 work-based learning opportunities, Youth Apprenticeship, and the other one is sponsored through DPI for the assistant child care teacher. But we have seen, coming off of COVID, a lot of interest from employers and students and families for this experience. So if we advance on to the next slide, and again, one of the reasons why I gave you some copies tonight, because a little much to take in all at one time, but these are the different program areas we have, them broken down to kind of show where our students are at. We were at a nice round number of 70, and then one of my biotech kids, we have to hold out on his placement for a while. Fortunately, he's only a junior, but we had around 70 for a little bit with that. But some things, you know, obviously on here you can see where some of our bigger program areas are, and you know, I've tried to explain a little bit to the kids too as they've been coming in this time of year and talking about it. We're very fortunate to be able to offer pretty much every program area. Other parts of the state, that doesn't happen. We're also able to offer kids very fast commutes to a variety of areas close to us. So we have kids working in so many different communities, including McFarland, but that is also huge to our advantage within there. Some things we could do better. Obviously, we want to kind of create some more diversity in the program. Those are some things we're looking to do. We also want to take a look at some of those non-traditional occupations and encourage people. So you'll see, you know, in our construction and auto, we maybe could be doing a better job of trying to capture some females into that as well. So that's a very typical non-traditional occupation. So a goal that we kind of make for ourselves every year as we look into that. Also can probably do a better job at making the opportunity known to our students that are at risk or our IEP and 504 plans so that we can make sure all students can benefit. The next slide there just kind of gives you that visual. So again, it pops out pretty easily that our big areas, health and biotech. I'm telling you, our biotech good kids they should be taking marketing classes because they're really good at marketing it to other people. My first year, I think I had 2 biotech, and this year we have 11 students in the biotech courses and that we provide for them at night, and just 1 student yet that needs to be placed. So that's a phenomenal number of kids in there. And but we also are capturing, I mean, finance we're doing awesome in too, and just we've been very fortunate because some companies, and as everybody knows, the labor pool is pretty shallow right now. And so some companies that are very desirable for our kids to be a part of are now saying, you know what, we might have some interest in helping with this. So one of those being UW-Madison Hospital and Clinics. And, you know, those are great opportunities. We've got 3 kids working down in the pharmacy and taking a pharmacy tech class at night, but working right alongside pharmacy tech students, or pharmacy students rather, from the UW. I'm really getting some great exposures. Everybody is paid. We have nobody under $10 an hour, and our highest paid positions right now are at $20 an hour. So kids are making good money as well. So, all right. And then on the back side, there, the last couple of slides, just showing how we've kind of exploded and how we compare to other Dane County students, or schools rather. But we've really seen just a whole lot of growth over the last couple of years. And again, I think coming off of COVID, we've learned that our kids want alternatives to the traditional style of education. And we have lots of opportunities for them with that. This is a time of year that I'm meeting with kids that are interested for next year, so it's been extremely busy managing those new students and working with kids on some new opportunities with that. But exciting times. I always say I have the best job because I get to see every kid in their element. Some of our kids, you know, nothing could be more painful than sitting in a classroom, but yet they're phenomenal on the job site, and other kids that just really have great experiences. And then finally, and this is, they are not in alphabetical order, because I think I captured them from my spreadsheet by names where kids were at. And a couple, I thought I caught some of them, but Oak Park Place, where Caroline Green works, also we have several kids there, so that showed up a couple times. I thought I caught all of them. But this just shows you, these are kids that are not working first job experiences. These are amazing opportunities. And finally, there's one last slide that I didn't print off, but I wanted to remember to say, you know, we can't do this without a school board and community that really supports these experiences for kids, that make our jobs really, really exciting and create some really great, wonderful experiences for our kids. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Comments from the board?
I would just
I
say.
have a question.
I'm
Oh, go ahead,
amazed-
Kate.
Okay, I'm amazed at the opportunities that you provide these kids and just the ability to try things out before they get to college or move on to their next step in life. I think this is fantastic, and you've really built this program along with your team, but
Yeah.
you're
you.
doing a great job.
Yeah, and, you know, with that being said, one of my students that always thought she wanted to be a vet tech and has discovered after working as a vet tech, it's really not her game, you know? And so sometimes what we see from, you know, in that case, bringing your puppy in for an exam is very different when you're behind the scenes, right? And that's a win. That's a win. She's not going to continue to go that pathway, and her family and herself are not going to spend money that they, you know, to find that out 2 years later. And so we don't, but then on the other hand, I have kids that are staying with those companies and are going to continue to advance, are going to continue to be paid to go to school, be paid for tools that they need, all of those types of things. So we do have employers that You know, we love when we've made a really great match. Or my students in nursing, oftentimes they may run off to a 4-year school because their long-term career goal is medicine, and they come back every Christmas and work. Where else could you come back and work for a month in a job that you really know and is going to pay a great wage? I mean, so it's super exciting. Megan, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I was just going to echo what Kate said. And those numbers in the Dane County, like comparing the Dane County schools, are really impactful. Do you think, I mean, it would be interesting to see what the percentage is, because for our school district, like there's some really big school districts in there that don't have a lot of usage of this program. So one, kudos to you, absolutely. This was so much good learning tonight, but do you have any ideas about why that would be, besides you said that we offer so many more opportunities. Do you think it's just that?
Geographics are definitely to our advantage because we do have opportunities where kids can go. I think the kids are really good at sharing the experience. What we started a couple of years ago during COVID, which we've now made it as alive, was we do a youth apprenticeship panel where the kids talk to their peers about it, and that has been phenomenally successful at just spreading the word a little bit more. And parents talk to parents, right? And so there's those kinds of marketing efforts. I came into a well-oiled machine following Cindy Brady. However, my whole teaching career, I found myself in the 1996 youth apprenticeship guide as having a student back then in 1996. So even though I was not doing school to career or anything like that, but I've just been able to be part of work-based learning, which has probably helped. But and our kids are phenomenal. I mean, they truly are. And you know what? Another great point is our counselors are excellent at talking about all opportunities to kids, and you don't find that in every school district. And so I think that plays a huge part of it as well. So,
That's awesome.
as well as support. I mean, I walked into a school where there was from the top down support for youth apprenticeship. So that's wonderful. And it's exciting. It's exciting.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's so good to hear that about the counselors too, that they're really presenting all of the options for
Yes.
students. That's really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, we have an awesome team, so we're really lucky. But I appreciate the time to be able to share some of this fun stuff with you. It's been a couple of years, and I will head on out for the rest of the meeting.
Keep doing what
Penny?
you're doing, Penny.
Thank you. All right.
Hey, Penny? Penny? Penny?
Yeah,
Well, before you leave, I have some comments and then some questions.
okay.
First of all, yeah, I appreciate everything. I think we as a board appreciate everything that you've done and the effort that you've put, effort and time, and a lot of reaching out, networking with countless people out in our communities. Secondly, just taking a look at the statistics and what you've shared, you really are a visionary for this type of program for kids. Yeah, and again, I think you're second to none. You are truly, following our district mission and vision when it's connected to kids and building upon their successes. What do you hear from employers out there? Once they've finished their youth apprenticeship program, once they've graduated from high school, you get feedback from employees later on?
Well, I'll tell you right now, the current thing is nobody wants to wait for you to finish anything. So obviously, there was just a great article that I shared with Aaron that maybe he can pass along, but it has gotten to the labor shortage is we can't wait for you to come and work. We want to pay you to go to school, and we want to train you on site, but we want you working here all the time as well. That's a big, big thing. Worried, yes, about some of those technical skills to have some of those things, But honestly, if they're coming in with the positive attitude and the willingness to learn, most employers are saying we can train you. So, that dependability and communication skills and initiative and all of those things are really, really big. They're all very impressed with what high school students can do and the creativity that comes from a high school student. Like when our students can walk into a business in the marketing area and they can be writing content for social media, they can be doing voiceovers behind, videos and stuff like that are going to go out on a company's website. I mean, it is amazing how these kids, they have enough experience and not enough experience to take chances, right? And that's having that younger body in a building just sometimes reminds the mentors of why they love what they do. I've had an engineer say that one to me before, that, helping mentor him has reminded me why I love engineering, so it's kind of cool that way. Did that answer the question in a roundabout way?
Yes, it certainly did. And only one other comment. As you know, the McFarland Optimist Club selects a high school senior of the month from McFarland High School. Many of them are going through the youth apprenticeship program, and we don't realize it until we get into the presentation, because sometimes they fail to identify that as things that they're doing in high school right now.
Right.
It's just remarkable when they share what they're doing. I mean, these are experiences that you would have heard from first year, second year college students. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Master College or the university. So.
Right.
But thank you.
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that I hear oftentimes, like I'll say to the kids when they're graduating, you only think you kind of get it now that experience was good, but wait till you're up against another student that's going for an internship, and you will be, steps ahead of them because you had those experiences in high school. So, we have students that will start their internships earlier in college and so forth. And, there are businesses that really want to work with our kids, and that's really wonderful as well. So it's a great place to be. McFarland High School is, right? Good thing.
It is, and thanks for being with us also.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Betty.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is discussion items and equity leadership position. Aaron.
All right, so thank you for this opportunity. I know this was added to the agenda kind of later in the process, but in plenty of time for notice. But I wanted to provide you with a little bit of, I always have to do this, thank you, information about the equity leadership, kind of the current status, as well as kind of some next steps with this process. And this is a discussion item. The board doesn't need to take any action this evening, but I wanted to provide an opportunity to kind of share some things with you, and then also to entertain your questions and comments about this as well. So I'm going to share my screen with you, because I know I sent you, I just emailed a little bit ago, a fairly lengthy document, and I'm going to reference that here in our time together today. So let me do that. All right. So, the purpose is I want to make sure that all the board members and the public that's watching has an understanding about where we've come with equity leadership, as well as kind of some ideas for the next steps in terms of an actual formalized full-time position in the district for equity leadership. So I'll highlight a few things. There's a lot of words here. This is partly for historical purposes. I like to put together documents like this so we don't lose the history as we move forward. Several years ago, the district was doing a lot of excellent work and well-intentioned work about equity-related initiatives, but it was very building-led and often redundant, and we weren't very efficient about it. In 2019, the board identified diversity embracing opportunities for diversity and addressing challenges of equity as a priority. And then, of course, in June of 2022, through some leadership from students, current and graduates, the district adopted an anti-racism resolution, which later became a board policy. At that time, Superintendent Dr. Burdell was really coordinating and leading our equity efforts, which of course resulted in the grant with Natural Circles of Support and our UW partner, Dr. Pribino, that resulted in that receiving that grant. And then during the times when Dr. Burdell was on leaves of absence, and then during his subsequent resignation in 2021, Melissa Fohl and I was then a principal, and she was and is the director of teaching and learning, did our best to coordinate some of these equity efforts, but we recognized that we didn't necessarily have the expertise nor the capacity to do that alone. And so the district created 3 positions at that point. One was more of an administrator type role, an equity coordinator, which was an additive to an administrator's contract, in that case, Ann Nichols. And then along with that, created 2 additional co-curricular positions, which were equity team leaders for EC through 5th grade and then 6th through 12th grade. And so the idea was that, these were to be temporary positions, 1 to 2 years, to provide, kind of help us continue the work that we were already doing and expand it, but to really keep things moving as we transitioned into the grant, the new administrative team with an interim superintendent and then a future superintendent yet to be named at that point. So that was really the plan. That was always meant to be kind of temporary and to build into something bigger. When I had the honor of being selected as the superintendent in February of 2022, I started looking into this in earnest. And in fact, I felt a charge to get a position and get it hired for the start of this school year, the 2022 and 23 school year. I may have made that up. No one told me to do that, but I felt like that was what I was supposed to do because I knew there was this gap in the work that we needed to do. And what we had really done was taken really complicated and hard work and put it onto people who already had full-time jobs. The first contact I made was to Monona Grove, and I reached out to them because they have an equity coordinator role. They're similar in size and felt like they could offer some expertise. And some of the things that were shared with that really resonated with me, which was make sure you know what you want this person to do and that you have clear goals and objectives for this role before you do so. Make sure they have some authority and support, particularly from the district office, and do this before, and make sure it aligns to your strategic plan. So, and receiving that feedback, knowing that we didn't have a strategic plan, I kind of slowed my roll a little bit and paused that process to make sure we focused first on the strategic plan. So we were beginning that work, of course, last year and into this year. We had Ann Nichols' resignation in October, and at that point, Melissa and I, again, assumed we were still involved in the equity work, but we kind of, along with the equity team leaders, kind of tried to do our best to replace the work that Ann Nichols had been doing. And, of course, our strategic plan, as the board knows, clearly identifies a mission and vision, objectives, and commitments that align with the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. In looking at, our current capacity and existing staff, it was clear that we needed, it just affirmed, I think the strategic plan affirmed that we additional leadership for this important work in coordination. And so since that time, I've had many conversations with staff, parents, guardians, students, community members, including members of equity leadership in the area, about kind of these needs. And really, it's often been in response to them reaching out to me saying, when are we going to get a full-time equity leadership position? And me explaining the process. More formally, what I've done is I reached out to Percy Brown Jr., who of course has a similar director role in Middleton Cross Plains School District. Met with staff from the Sun Prairie School District, including their Director of Systemic Equity and Inclusion and their superintendent, and of course have continued my contacts in Monona Grove. Looked at their job descriptions, but some of the things that have come out of their these contacts that I think are important for the board to know and the community to know is they're talking about the importance, again, of that clarity of the role, the purpose, making sure it aligns with your mission, vision, and strategic plan. An emphasis that has come through those contacts as well as through Dr. Lewis and Natural Circles of Support is this is hard work and it's complicated work. And instead of expecting one person to be the expert of all of this work, to make sure that you have internal and external supports and consultants and groups of people for them to collaborate with so that they're, both feel supported and also embracing best practices. They also it needs to be clear that their role is supporting others doing that work and not that all the equity work falls on this one person. Because this work is embedded in everything we do. And so this is just someone that's coordinating and making sure that we're moving forward in this work, but everyone is involved in the work. This isn't a replacement. The other thing, and this is going to be the subject of some debate, I would say, and consideration, is about the status of the position, whether it is the level of the position, whether it is a coordinator or a director, which I'll talk about in detail a little bit later. The recommendation that I've been given is, the idea of a director was emphasized, particularly with Sun Prairie. Now, granted, that is a much bigger system. Both Middleton and Sun Prairie, it's a director role. In Monona Grove, it's a coordinator role, although the person in that role also has an administrative role in the district. But they emphasize that in order for that person to have a level of authority so that they can actually make decisions and move things forward and to attract a qualified candidate, it was recommended that it be a director position versus a coordinator position. And that the compensation be commensurate with the title. So I want to just explain a little bit to you about what that means, because I've realized when I say this, not everybody lives and breathes in this work at the district to understand. So a coordinator has a teacher contract. It's not an administrative contract. And as a result, they don't need to have an administrative degree. A director is a position just below the superintendent and in the hierarchy of a district above a principal. So, our current directors, we have a director of buildings and grounds, we have a director of business and technology, we have a director of teaching and learning, and we have a director of student services. Those are the four positions that we'd have. And typically in my work, it's really the three with buildings and grounds, working closely with Jeff Mahoney as a director of business and technology. I typically work more closely with Lauren, Melissa, and Jeff as part of the cabinet, if you will. So, that would be if it was a director position, which is what it was drafted as and has been drafted as, that's the level of position. A coordinator position is typically under a director. So we have literacy coordinators, for example, in the district. There's a curriculum coordinator, Darian Riggins, who is underneath Melissa, there is a student services coordinator, Angie Brunette, who is underneath Lauren. So those positions kind of fall in that level. And I'll talk some more about some ideas about that, and I welcome your feedback. I did create a draft job description based on some of the things that I had learned, shared that with a few people as a first draft out to administrative council, the backbone of the McFarland Equity Project, the Natural Circles of Support Grant Team, and our district equity leaders for feedback, made some revisions and sent it out more broadly just a couple of weeks ago for principals to share with their equity teams, to share with the entire McFarland Equity Project team, and I will be meeting tomorrow with Social Justice Club advisors and students for additional feedback. And I'm going to tell you about some of the feedback I've received for so far. Ideally, I'd like to get this position posted by the end of the month, early April. That's really the sweet spot of hiring, but I don't want to rush it if we're not ready. The job description, which is linked and which I believe you've seen before, it details kind of the job responsibilities. Some things I want to point out about it is it was drafted as a director position with the person reporting directly to me, similar to the other cabinet director positions, requiring an administrative degree. In order to be at a director level within a school district, you really need an advanced degree and licensure because you are advising, making decisions that are in that role between superintendent and principal. The responsibilities include a lot of the language, particularly that I valued from Sun Prairie about co-creation, so that it's not all on that one person to do all the work. They're doing it with people in conjunction with administrative team members and equity leaders within buildings in relation to our long-term equity goals and strategic plan. And I identified specific job responsibilities within, I believe, 7 areas. So some of the feedback that I've gotten, I didn't put this one on because some of this was coming in late today yet, was there's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot on that job description. And as someone that has been engaged in this work, since 2000, outside of my role as principal in a district level role, it is a lot of work. There's a lot of people doing a lot of this work in addition to their current roles or as part of their current role. There's some concerns being raised about when you make requiring an administrative degree and licensure, are you limiting your pool? Are you then shrinking people who may have great skills and expertise and experiences, both lived and in districts, that can apply now for this position? Of course, on the other hand, you have to think about if you're going to attract a high-quality candidate, does it need to be a director position? There's also been that continued advocacy for external support for the position, including support for outside consultants and groups, and that does impact us financially in terms of identifying those supports. Another concern that has come forward is our ability to fund a director position, and of course, given the current level of leadership in this work, jumping to a director is a pretty significant jump. So that has come forward in terms of the initial draft as well as some other areas. Kind of the next steps, continuing to gather some feedback, both with you tonight and then, of course, with some people in the coming days. Really need to make some final decisions before posting about whether it is a director or a coordinator. I felt like I had come to some pretty I felt like that was pretty much a finalized decision in making the draft. But now I'm questioning whether a coordinator position would be more appropriate. Which of those is going to get a stronger pool? which is a more logical progression for the district. Will a coordinator have the expertise and authority to make the kind of changes that we need to? This position doesn't involve supervising a staff. It doesn't involve budgeting, and that is currently an important part of our director roles and a significant responsibility that our directors have, as well as our principals. And the funding. You know, between a coordinator and a director, you're talking about $50,000 difference. We don't have the funds to fund a director currently. We would need to find additional funds because in looking at our current equity roles, you know, that'll fund 10 to 15% of the position, depending upon whether it's a director or a coordinator position. We do have a reduction in a section of a grade level, which you know allows us some funds, which we anticipate continuing based on enrollment projections. That's 37 to 53%, depending upon the size of the position. And then my budget offsetting it, which, you know, there's some money in there, but that we have attributed to equity leadership. But if we use, you know, 32, and I don't have 53% to contribute out of my budget for that work, the concern is that it doesn't leave you funds to fund professional development consulting that would support this role. It's kind of like you fund the position with a director, but you then can't provide for those other things, the professional development things. We'd have to take funds from that to fund the position. So that's where I'm starting to really question that, but obviously want to get an amazing human being that can do this important work and lead us through this. Another consideration is who supervises the position. It's different in different districts. Given the size of our district, you know, it would be appropriate to be either myself or the Director of Teaching and Learning. I don't supervise any coordinators. You know, I supervise directors and principals. It's not to say that I couldn't supervise a coordinator in this role, at least to start. But that's, you know, not the most significant decision to be made. And of course, looking at the job responsibilities. And then wanting to get the position posted and hired and wanting to make sure there's involvement from various groups. I think we've started a trend with these district and building level leadership teams have been hiring teams, inviting and involving parents, guardians, community members, and students, along with staff. So that's, you know, my overview. Look at that, right at 20 minutes, which is my goal. So those are some of the things. Now, I know as this is a lot of information for you to take in, but I chose to make this a discussion, or brought forward the idea of making this a discussion item as opposed to just a presentation, because I wanted to provide the opportunity for the board members to really engage in sharing your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns to the extent that you're able to do so tonight, so that this doesn't get delayed too much going forward. The board's role, you know, historically, the board hasn't created positions or voted on creating positions. Where the board has voted is on approving a person for a position. That's typically been the process in this district, but I don't want to negate your wisdom, insight, and perspective. So I'm done talking now. So what questions, comments, thoughts from the board?
I have a couple. I'll just start if no one else wants to.
Go ahead.
Well, first I know I've said this to you before, but I want to really commend you for the amount of research that you've done to make this position sorry, my husband's doing some construction, if you can hear those sounds. My apologies, there's some pounding happening. you have done a lot of background work to ensure that this position is very thoughtfully developed, thoughtfully funded. I think you've probably achieved that goal of the slowing down to make sure that it's what we want. And also for reaching out to community members and different resources within the community, even though it meant sharing potentially, information that wasn't really ready for public consumption yet. I think that was a really mindful, great strategy on your part. And I think the one thing that with equity work that is so important is that accountability and who this person reports to. I mean, you said it a bunch in your 20 minutes, that this person, people need to be able to feel safe coming to this person when they have issues with their supervisor or the previous, or like the other ways that they can, when they experience an issue of inequity that they feel needs to be addressed, they have to feel like there's going to be action there and an authority without there being a conflict of interest. And so with this kind of position, that's just a challenge anywhere. But I think it's director versus coordinator. I think that part has to be really clear what their authority is and things like that. And then my other thought about, kind of director versus coordinator, just food for thought, is there anything that we want this individual to be able to develop into or promote to? Like, is it like an end? I mean, it's a new position, right? And we don't really have a department of equity or anything like that. So like, if you think about employees, where you want them to develop to and what their personal goals might be, is that a consideration that we want to make in this role, that there would be a place for them to move up to or develop their skills to?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think this is a really, really great product of a lot of work. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And that has been one of the things in terms of growth. There's kind of two ways to look at it, is do you start as a coordinator and maybe the work ends up becoming a director role? Maybe it grows to that. I've had some people suggest that idea, to me, which provides an opportunity for growth. Or while you're creating a coordinator position, are you really creating a director for another district? Is that what you're doing? And maybe so. I mean, maybe that the size of our district is just, that's how it is, because I'm talking to Sun Prairie and Middleton. They're much different than we are. Maybe that's just the reality of the size of our district for this new role.
Karen, could you tell us a little bit more about the MG? You say that they have a coordinator, but the person is also has an administrative role.
Yes.
So how does that, is that unheard of elsewhere? Or, I mean, you're talking 3 districts that we've communicated in the area.
Right.
And, which again, I keep chuckling because everyone always says, for a school your size, McFarland's an amazing place. And I mean, the whole thing with Penny Thompson is a good example of that. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're pursuing this. We're not your typical small school. We're like thinking big, and I think that's awesome. But I just kind of curious, how do they do that?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak on their behalf.
No,
as I look at the Monona Grove position, what they have done is they have the person in their role is a student services coordinator, the equity coordinator, and is the principal of MG 21. So their alternative school. So they've got a lot on their plate.
Yeah.
They also have people underneath them that report to them. So they recently created a position of a restorative justice coordinator, who's actually, the person in that position is George Randolph, who is a McFarland community member. So they, they've kind of built some supports within that, but it's a significant responsibility for them. Now, the way that they find the most success, given that it's a coordinator role, is the level of involvement with the superintendent. So, and that is something that Middleton Percy Brown Jr. recommended to me too, is, if it's a coordinator position, having them report to you directly does give them more authority than if they reported to a director, which makes sense. So that's one way to be able to do it. But I think it just happened that the MG person is also a principal of another school in the district.
Hi, Aaron. I sent some questions after I read the draft
Yes.
job description and a couple other things. First of all, thanks for the presentation. That actually answered some of the questions that I have. But are there other school districts in Dane County that have a equity leadership position besides the three that you mentioned? And excluding Madison.
Yeah, obviously Madison does. I believe, I don't know the details about what Oregon and Verona have, but I'm confident that they do. I didn't reach out to them. That's certainly something I could do. I felt like one of the things that was really nice about the people that I reached out to are they're people I do have a relationship with and have a sense of their systems. But certainly I could. What I'm finding is that we would be the only district of our size that has a role like this. But similar to, some of the, we're also the only village of our size that has a DEI committee the way that our village does. I mean, that's just something that our community, it's part of who we are and our identity and our commitment. So, but if the board would like me to reach out to additional districts, I certainly could do that.
Again, I guess I certainly wouldn't request that you do that because of the time limitations you have.
Yeah.
And I strongly support an equity leadership position here in McFarland, based on our district vision, our district mission, and our strategic plan. I do have reservations, though, whether or not it's a director position or a coordinator position. First of all, funding. Yeah, we're talking about $50,000 difference between a coordinating position and a director position. And in light of the fiscal cliff that some people are referring to that will impact our district in 1 or 2 years, something will have to give. And I think once the position is in the district, it's very hard to get rid of it. I would not advocate getting rid of a new position, but the money will have to come somewhere. Next, I do like the idea of a coordinator position with that person directly communicating and with you serve as their supervisor. Because I do agree that regardless of whether it's an administrative position or a coordinator position, we're gonna have some of the same challenges as far as enforcing whatever new approaches we want to take. I just, taking a look at our whole district, the size, the resources, the student population. Again, I would have reservations about a director position versus a coordinator position. And did you say in your report, and again, I apologize for slurring my speech, that's going to be a thing, a new normal for me. I didn't see in the draft position where budget and hiring personnel was part of their responsibility. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yes, correct. They,
Yep.
depending upon the position, they may or may not have a budget, right? Because how much money we have. They also would be involved in our human resources and hiring practices, but they would not be hiring anyone. There's no one underneath them to hire nor supervise, which is one of the things that I think separates a director maybe from a coordinator. Or
Correct.
two of the
Yeah.
things.
And again, that would be the other reservation I have. You know, when you take a look at other administrative positions, they're fully comprehensive with budget, funding things, hiring, staff, personnel things. So this one would be much different than the others. And lastly, my comment would be this. I know that there's a hiring window, usually in the spring, where you can capture the best candidates out there. I have to be honest, after, you know, serving as a principal here at McFarland for years, some of our best hires were made in July and August. So I don't want to negate that, but I think it's important to recognize and realize that if we miss a certain window of opportunity, there may be another window of opportunity out there.
Yeah, I think that, and maybe this is just me, and I could be off. I don't have any data to support this. But my thought is if it's a director position, you probably need to post it earlier, just because those, you know, people that are in those roles are looking at administrative positions all the time in a different way, partly because they may be looking at, you know, a bump up versus someone that's making a lateral move may make that later. Your commitments, you know, to districts in our administrative positions have a different timeline than.
And I certainly would concur with that, Aaron, also.
Okay.
And I love the idea of hiring teams, because I think it's proved to be very effective in the district.
Yeah.
And I really love that concept. So I applaud your efforts to have that continued with new positions here, certainly.
Thank you.
I think, I mean, we talked about this a little bit on our
We
own
did.
as well, and when I went into talking about this with you, I definitely was thinking more of a coordinator role, and then when you explained the director responsibilities, that made sense too. I think this, obviously this job description that you gave us is written more for a director level, and I think you have to think about what you're looking for, right? A director is gonna bring something to the table that probably a coordinator is not, in terms of experience with policies, procedures, some of those. It doesn't mean a coordinator can't do it, but there's a different set of skills that maybe a director level would bring that a coordinator wouldn't. So some of these responsibilities would likely fall on someone else to assist, right? If we went with a coordinator versus a director. So you do have to think about that. They may report directly to you, but who's going to assist them in doing some of these things that are clearly goals that we still want to accomplish, whether it's a coordinator or a director level. And so, I mean, it would be great to bring in a director level person who could achieve these things, but at the same time, if there's no funding to assist in that, you need to have the ability to move things forward. And if we don't have the funding, I'm not sure that can happen. So I think that's a big part of this, right?
Yeah.
Because you still need to continue to push these concepts, these goals, these initiatives out to the staff and the schools. And if you don't have necessarily the professional development money to do that, I'm not sure that it's a feasible task.
Thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. Anything else?
So Aaron, what would the next step be for us, you?
So I'll take some more feedback over the next couple of days, and then bring forward kind of a decision. Typically, as I shared before, this wouldn't be something the board takes action on. However, if that's something the board wanted to take action on the creation of a position, that's fine too. You know, it would be somewhat unprecedented, you know, in the district. And it could be that if it's a director position, maybe the board says, well, then we do want to get more involved. If it's a coordinator position, then, you know, that's a level of position that we don't feel we need to be as involved. You know, I feel like I want to honor the feedback that I'm getting and not make a decision today or tomorrow, you know, give it a few days. And maybe there's some things that, as the board thinks about it a little bit more, now that you have a lot of information, maybe, you know, it's something that we entertain in another conversation, whether individually or, you know, during open session.
I just want to thank you for, you know, asking for our feedback. And I know as I was typing it up today, I'm going like, oh my gosh. So there has been no interest, right? I mean, we've pretty much decided we don't want to work with the village, that there's going to be two distinct, probably, positions.
Yes, I mean, the village took action long ago.
Yes,
Which, once that happened,
yeah,
that was, to me, this like, okay, they're moving forward,
Yeah.
we're gonna move forward. And I think also, as you see this job description, we have a full-time position's worth of work.
I understand that.
Currently.
Yeah, and I remember the arguments that were given, and I
Yeah.
support them. I'm just wondering, I'm just thinking outside the box right now, some crazy idea, but, I mean, would it be possible? I mean, in a way, we're setting ourselves up. We're going to be going to referendum, probably 2024. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, a
I
year
mean, at
from
that
now.
point, you hopefully have your kind of, your wish list kind of in order. This is what we would like to do. I'm wondering, could we work, I'm just throwing this out, with the village so that they could kind of help us? I mean, the very things that Kate's talking about, would they be willing to do that for basically a year until we can kind of fund this ourselves? I mean, just throwing that idea out there.
Yeah, I don't think that's on the table from the village.
Probably not.
Currently, we're that, you know, could that change? Maybe.
Yeah.
I have, you know, it's kind of like whether, if this was a shared position, I'd want to make sure that they're, have education experience. That's going to be my bias. And I'm probably going to want more than 50% of their time. So I'm thinking that the district's probably not interested in a partnership where I'm saying I need them to meet basically this job description and to meet the goals. I don't see our goals changing.
All right, I agree with that, but the question is, I mean, you get to the point where if you can't do what you really want, in effect, you're saying, you know, maybe we should wait a year, and I don't think we want to do that either. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the only reason I think, I'm trying to think of creative ways that we might be able to pull this off. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it is a dilemma, and I
It
think
is.
it's one of the reasons why this process has gone slowly, in my opinion, although my pace is unrealistic sometimes, is that there's so many ways to look at it. My thought is if both the village and the district have enough work to do currently, right? You know, as we're getting started with these positions, and have unique needs, to have two possibly full-time positions collaborating, right?
Yes.
Together, like that could be really powerful.
Very
And it could be over time, we set up systems and structures that make the position, you know, less necessary to be full-time because everybody's doing the work and we got things moving. That could be, you know, and then maybe it would evolve into a shared position. Right now, speaking for the school district, I just know I would want 100% of that person's time. You know,
No, I agree with that. I think that's what we'd want to
yeah.
shoot for.
I mean, it seems like really the biggest thing right now would be for you to listen to the feedback and then decide what type of a role you want. And once you do that, then this is easier to kind of narrow down. But I will say, if you think about who's been helping in this role up to this point, right? It's a director level position, because you guys have all been kind of assisting and filling the need of this role. So I think you guys need to look at how effective have you been in this role? What were some of the challenges of this role? And think about a person who maybe is at a coordinator level, what will they experience in that same type of situation, right? As you've tried to create some of these initiatives and rolled them out, I'm sure there's been challenges. And really, I think you need to think about how difficult was it, or can you see somebody in a coordinator role being able to do that effectively, or are you afraid that there's going to be issues with that? And if you feel like they're not going to be able to effectively do what you guys in the director level role have already done, then I think there's your answer.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to feel comfortable, I think.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, like even a director level role sometimes, feel like, they don't necessarily have the authority to make certain decisions. Ultimately, regardless of the title, people are going to need to know that whoever's in that role says that's what's going to happen. Like that they are probably going to need to report to me, and so that people know, like, well, that's kind of where Aaron's coming from. I mean, I don't mean to sound authoritative, but there's so many important things to do, and teachers are so overwhelmed, and sometimes we have to make difficult decisions and say, this is actually a priority. But in order to do that, getting to your point, is they would need to be supported.
I agree.
And that, yeah, this is what we need to do in relation to our strategic plan. The challenges that we faced in this work is primarily an issue of time, but also of expertise. And so, I'm on my own equity journey as a white male, doing this work, and so going through this, I've learned a lot, and I'm going to continue learning regardless of whether or not I'm leading this work or, working with someone who's coordinating this work. So there's an expertise part, but there's also just a time part that isn't being met through Melissa and I and, our equity team leaders, so. Yeah. Other thoughts?
No, just thank you.
Thank you.
Food for thought, Aaron. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, well, I appreciate how thoughtful the board is on these things and insightful in looking at it from different angles. And, for the public that's watching, know that we've talked about this individually. Each of us, I've had meetings with, and we've talked about this before. And, what you shared tonight is representative of those conversations as well, because there's a lot to consider. And the last thing I'll say is just know that as many people that are contacting me saying, you need this position, what are you waiting for, go forward, there is a group of people in our community that are saying, I don't think you need this position. And I feel like that is political divisiveness that I'm turning to our strategic plan and that process.
Agreed.
That's driving this role in this position. It's not some political agenda from myself or any other member of the district. This is clearly something that is important for our strategic plan and to making sure all of our kids and families feel that they belong and are successful in our district.
And I wanted to say that when you were talking about, I feel like it's gone longer in a way than I would have liked. We had to do that strategic plan, and it was so overwhelming, the support for this. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can sit there and say, well, it just doesn't have it has that grassroots support that very, very clearly stated.
So Aaron, do you have any suggestions on what we, the board, can do to further support all these efforts? Because I also realize that, you're probably hearing from a number of community members that don't have the understanding that some of us have on the importance of a leadership equity position here in the district. Is there something else or additional things we as a board can do to get that message out or, support this? What would you suggest?
I appreciate that question. I mean, certainly I feel the support. I think tonight is a big step in that. I think a community member watching this would recognize that you are being thoughtful, considerate, and that you support this position in relation to our strategic plan. I mean, that has clearly been the message to a board member tonight. I don't have anything specifically at this point, but as things evolve, it may come to a point where the board may need to be more vocally advocating for the value of this position. But, I feel like that message, at least with the people that I'm communicating with, has been heard, and they feel like the board does recognize the value. I can tell you the staff certainly does. The staff are coming to me saying, this is important work, and we need somebody to lead us in this work. So the questions would be, I think what you're saying, Tom, is just those that don't have the information, whereas our staff have the information, you have the information.
Correct.
So maybe it is a matter of, maybe the board has insights in how I and/or you can better reach the people that maybe don't have that information and need that information.
Okay, thanks. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, next, district administrators report.
Oh, boy, a lot of
Aaron
names.
again.
Yeah. All right, some stuff that's going on, some recognitions. I always appreciate the student report because it helps me cut to the chase a little bit. One thing I found really interesting that it just kind of got developed through our high school school social work department is a Spartan grocery program where families can donate groceries to families in need, and families in need can ask for help. The idea is to be kind of a one-time thing, but our school social workers felt like there was a need beyond what our amazing food pantry provides, and put together this program, and just was sharing my compliments and gratitude with them today, and got an email back saying how grateful they are for the response that they've received from families wanting to donate and help. So that was kind of a neat thing. And know that is Zach Springer, who's our high school social worker. And also he's had an intern, Coley Hebner, who you just hired as his long-term sub while he's out on paternity leave. So kind of the two of them have really led that initiative.
Aaron, is there any?
Go ahead.
Aaron, is there any collaboration with the McFarland Food Pantry and
I'm not-
what they're doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I know we, as a district, have done a ton of food drives for the food pantry. I think this is in addition to, not meant to replace, but in addition to.
Okay.
Tom, I haven't heard there's a real connection direct to that. And I'm
Okay.
involved with the pantry quite a bit, so it's really awesome. I'm just amazed.
Yeah. I wanted to share just gratitude for the students, the staff, the coaches, the players, the athletes involved in our recent tournament appearances for basketball. Yes, there's success that's associated with it, but I want to acknowledge, more importantly, just the class that our community has shown throughout this process, both through wins and losses. If you look back at this sports season recently, and co-curriculars with DECA, and we just saw forensics and swimming, and it's just been amazing, the success. But the thing that I take such great pride in, and I think I want to acknowledge here, is that beyond wins and losses is just how kind and respectful and supportive people are. You had, administrators scrambling to basically put together a field trip for several hundred students on a Friday afternoon in bad weather, and they threw that together. And, I'm a little biased, but I can tell you those middle school students, and there were, I think, 4 buses of middle school students that went, they need a lot of supervision. They need a lot of direction and guidance, and we made it happen. And I had gotten some questions about should we have closed school and making sure all the staff that wanted to go could go, and it was a tough decision. We had the most fans for Division II, so at the girls' basketball state tournament, and I think we did a great job supporting the teams, but more important, they represent us so well. So I wanted to share a couple of comments. An official from a girls sectional game said, "Thank you to Sarah, Coach Mulaney, and your players. There are always tough calls to make, and last night your players just played and Sarah coached. Pretty sure there were calls they did not agree with, but they let us do our jobs. That was great. Your players are a definite reflection of their coach. Class acts." A supervisor at one of the boys sectionals games said, "I wanted to let you know that your staff and kids were exemplary in their behavior and the way they handled themselves." So, when you're on a bigger stage with these tournament games, there's a lot of eyes on you. And for people that take the time to share that feedback with us, even though we already know it's all true, it says a lot about our community. And the support for all of our athletics and co-curriculars, not just those that make it to state or not just those that have a bigger stage. So that was my not rehearsed speech that came out better than I thought it would.
It was a good speech, Aaron. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have some pictures to share from our social media. And, the Kindness Bingo Challenge, what a great thing. These are our students excited to let you know that they reached bingo on being kind in Mrs. Everson's class. Just what a cool thing that is. Also wanted to recognize we had the 5th grade orchestras perform for the 4th grade class, and just to show them what orchestra is about, because, let's be honest, most 4th graders don't know what orchestra is. And so 5th grade students, the role models at Wabisa, sharing that, and thank you to Leanna Hershey for her amazing leadership across 3 buildings and multiple grade levels. Raising money for the Dane County Humane Society. So grateful to no longer be at the middle school, or I might have been sitting in that chair. But the students selected Mr. Rowley as the winner to have a fundraiser for a pie in the face. I love that first picture, like that is the moment right before he gets that, but great attitude. And you can see Mr. Jondal really getting a lot of joy out of that happening right there in the background. We've been trying to share with you and post on social media just the importance of literacy and getting great books in the hands of kids. So here's our 8th grade team. Got some new classroom library books. And that is something that, years ago when I first came to the district, we had some classroom libraries. They have grown so much more because you want to get as many books as close to kids' hands as you can. So that's an exciting thing. The middle school choir concert happened. I wasn't able to attend, but I heard wonderful things about that and grateful for Elise Weber as she fills those big shoes from Katrina Lemons. People of Color Union at the middle school had a fundraiser, a badminton tournament. What a fun idea. And I think what I really love about this picture over here is just that you see students and staff raising money, but having fun together doing it. So that just makes me a little sappy. The eighth grade orchestra and high school chamber singers, chamber strings members were able to participate in a field trip to see the Madison Symphony Orchestra. What a great opportunity. Inspirational. So I know a lot of work goes into creating these field trips. So thanks to those involved. I wasn't able to attend this, but bringing in outside speakers is so important. And so kudos to the freshman U.S. history teachers for providing an opportunity for students to hear from a speaker about the Holocaust and their family's experience. Very powerful. And of course, I think you've probably received this notification, but Yabo has moved on to the next round. So a finalist among, I think it's 1,500 or 15,000, excuse me, students in the country competing for this honor as a national merit finalist. So, and about, from what I've heard from our advanced learning department, about half of those who make it to this level actually receive the honor. So, fingers crossed on Yabo. So that's our slideshow. And then in terms of other events coming up, just a reminder, we're still in Youth Art Month, so if you haven't had a chance to get to the library to see those wonderful displays and to send gratitude to our art teachers, please do so. The 21st, that's tomorrow, is World Down Syndrome Day. This Friday is another makeup day for 4K, having school on Friday to make up for my decisions to call a snow day. Spring break is next week, as Bruce alluded to earlier. April, many recognitions. I don't know why there's so many in April, but Autism Awareness, Financial Literacy, Volunteer Month, School Library Month, Poetry Month. So a lot of great things for that. We have our next board meeting on the 3rd, and there's many recognitions following after that I will share at the April 3rd meeting. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Time for adjournment. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say yay.
Yay.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
excuse me. It depends on what meeting I'm in.
Yeah.
Those that oppose, nay. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for leading us, Tom.
Yeah, thanks.
You're
Tom.
welcome. Yeah, it's a little later this time. It's 9:40 out down here, so.
Oh, boy. Yeah, we think
But
we're getting done early.
Yeah.